Is it normal for someone to want to kill people 5 days out of the month? This is perimenopause.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. If you have a female in your life, this is the show for you. Today, I'm going to be joined by Dr. Mariza Snyder, and she is a functional practitioner, hormone expert, and author of the Perimenopause Revolution. If you've ever felt, or someone you love has ever felt like your body's shifting in ways that you can't quite explain, this episode is for you. We get into what's really happening during perimenopause.
These subtle symptoms are signals.
I think that this whole conversation actually is about real freedom. Why your energy, mood, and metabolism might feel off, and the simple shifts that can help you feel like yourself again, or maybe even better.
People ask, well, when should I start hormones?
And when I read it in your book, I was like, oh, maybe I should have started sooner.
I'm saying perimenopause.
We'll also talk about what younger women can do right now to make this transition easier later, because your habits today do shape your hormones tomorrow. From the right labs to the right movement, nutrition, and mindset. This doesn't have to be really elaborate, it just needs to be specific. And Dr. Snyder shares how this stage of life can actually be one of strength and clarity, not frustration. So if you've ever asked, is this normal, or what can I do to feel better right now? Dr. Snyder has the answers.
Even in my mom's generation, very much how she handled it was that I just survived this. And I was like, what if it doesn't have to be that way?
This podcast is brought to you by OneSkin. I love this brand. I've been using it for years. It was first given to me. I got the face moisturizer as a present. And I just love the science behind this brand. You know, this time of the year, I don't know about you, but it can really start to mess up with my skin, whether it's the colder weather coming, I've been traveling more, and really now we're entering the holiday craziness. And it's just easy to feel a little dry or dull. And that's why not only have I been leaning on OneSkin lately, but it's been a game changer for keeping my skin feeling healthy and balanced, even when things have been crazy. So I love their OS01 face moisturizer. It's my original product, but I've also been adding the body back into my rotation. It's just nice in my routine. I never really expected to notice, such a big difference, but my skin really does feel smoother and hydrated, and it's not heavy and greasy. So what's impressive is that it's not just surface level hydration. It's designed to actually support your skin at the cellular level so it can do its thing. So the science behind it is what has always sold me on this brand. At the heart of it is their patented OS01 peptide, which helps target the root cause of skin aging, things like fine lines, wrinkles, and loss of elasticity. The results? They've been validated in multiple clinical studies, and all their products are tested and safe for sensitive skin. Plus, everything layers so beautifully. And this is perfect timing because OneSkin just dropped their limited edition holiday sets. Sounds like a present to me. My favorite is the Nightly Rewind gift set. It's such a nice little moment of self-care. It comes with their best-selling face moisturizer that I mentioned, the new peptide lip mask, I really need that, and a sculpting gua sha tool. I've been using that at night as part of a wind-down routine, and it just feels like this simple, calming way to wrap up the day. So for a limited time, you can try OneSkin for 15% off by using the code Reece at oneskin.co/Reece. That's oneskin.co/Reece. Again, that's oneskin.co/Reece for 15% off your order. And if after you purchase, they want to know where you found them, please let them know you heard about them from the Gabby Reece Show. It does support the show. So Dr. Snyder, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I seen you recently. We saw each other in Arizona.
We did.
Yeah. How has this adventure been for you?
It's always a yes and. I'm so deeply grateful to get this message out. And as a mom to a young child, to a 4-year-old, it's been a stretch for me.
Yeah. I think, when we are trying to live a life where we're there, but we're also trying to do something in our careers, that will be the longest forever conversation on how to do that and keep your family intact, keep your health intact, keep your sanity intact, and somehow everybody thrives.
Yeah, he always wants to negotiate with me about how many nights, how many FaceTimes, because he's really reconciling the idea that I'm going to be gone.
Yeah. I think when our kids are demanding, the great thing is in a way when they can ask for what they want, you don't have to face that 20 years later.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I love that he feels safe and comfortable asking for.
Yeah.
It's a conversation every time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have 3 daughters. I know all about that negotiation. So Would this book have gotten written if you hadn't had your own personal experience with a hormone change?
This book was definitely, it came through because of my own personal experience, but also I got a front row seat to my mother's perimenopausal journey that was very visceral and very real. And I remember feeling how medicine and the healthcare system had really failed her. And, you know, I had a lot of women in midlife in my clinical practice at the time that my mom was going through perimenopause. And I even, as a clinician, wasn't connecting the dots between what my patients were going through until I really saw it with my mom and how desperately she needed support and help. I also, you know, it was in a moment where I thought, is this going to happen to me?
Yeah.
And then I was so focused on postpartum and raising my son, still breastfeeding, that when perimenopause happened, I did feel blindsided by it.
Yeah. So just to clarify for people, you know, they hear all the menopause words.
Yes.
Can you just sort of give us what each phase represents in as far as in the cycle of, you know, perimenopause, menopause, you know, premenopause, whatever those, because there is a little bit of a nuance and a difference.
Absolutely. So we've got our reproductive years, right? And we think about puberty, where our hormones are coming online. But it takes 4 to 6 years for us to fully come online to those reproductive years. Puberty is not a blip in time. It's not just 1 month. It's a profound neuroendocrine transition. You know, girls are really trying to work it out. You raising 3 daughters, you know, trying to navigate that with them, and they're figuring out their bodies as their brains are changing. It's a big deal. And I don't think we give it enough credit or enough understanding and compassion that we should as girls are going through that transition. And then rhythmically, we are cycling, ideally, you know, for 20 plus years, 25 to 30 years, until we get into our late reproductive years. And I just want to highlight that because it may not be exactly perimenopause, but we could be experiencing an ovulatory cycle, so cycles where we're not always ovulating. And as a result, we may not have as robust of progesterone levels in that luteal phase. May not be perimenopause yet, but women begin to feel a shift. And this can happen in our mid-30s. And then
that early.
Wow. Yeah. Well, if we reverse engineer, so if we just take us to menopause, natural menopause being anywhere between 45 and 55 years old. And perimenopause can be anywhere from 4 to 10 years leading into menopause. Technically, a woman could potentially be in perimenopause in her mid-30s. But I would say that most of us in our mid-30s are technically late reproductive. I know for me, I had my son at 41. I spent a whole year priming up to have him because I knew that everything was changing.
Physically, emotionally, kind of structuring your life, priming up?
All of it, all of those things. So I would say emotionally, physically, but even supporting the gut, most importantly, supporting your mitochondria and your cellular energy. It is no surprise that the highest concentration of mitochondria are in the ovaries, because that's where we are making eggs. And, you know, we are, of men and women 3D print human beings. And so we need a lot of cellular energy and mitochondrial capacity to do so. And so I would say that is any time in our lives, but especially after the age of 30, we really need to be looking at our cellular energy, our mitochondrial function, our gut health, and even our hormones as we are priming up to get pregnant and to 3D print that human being.
Yeah. You know, and having a lot of these conversations, it's like you hear that sort of the beginning of like our apex time is 18 years old.
Yes.
Hormonally, like you said, like we've had 4 years or more-ish around there.
Give or take, yeah.
I always think about it because I was, the first time I became a stepmother at 25, and I became a biological mother at 33 was my first. And then I had a geriatric pregnancy. I love that term. It's so good.
Do you love it?
Love it when you go in.
Late reproductive.
Yeah, I am like, fuck you when I go into the doctor's office when they say geriatric.
Oh, yeah.
Like I take stuff that I normally be like, oh, that would bother me. And I just get aggro towards it.
Like, yeah, I'm going to show you.
Yeah. So I had my youngest daughter 5 days before I turned 38. So that was, considered geriatric after 35, right?
After 35, yeah.
Yeah. So even though biologically we're probably meant to be a lot younger than the way the world and the way we've chosen to set it up is happening. So I think we're also dealing with a lot of different circumstances, and that's why the conversation has to start, right? So We're late to the conversation because studies are done pretty much on men, or women when they're in their most balanced hormonal
in our
time.
20s.
Yeah. So I think we all know that that is the case, right? Like today I want to spend all the time on solutions.
Yes.
Because I think that's a really important conversation to support women and go, hey, listen, biologically, we are the same as we've been for 250,000 years. It is that way. And so the more we can understand certain things and go, okay, and in our modern life, we're doing things very differently.
Yes. I always say there's nothing about this modern day life that is conducive to optimized hormones.
Yes.
Particularly when they start to decline.
Right. I think part of this discussion is for at any age, which is almost how do you, within the unnatural way we live, have practices of natural, being like a natural human being?
That's literally what this book is all about. Like, how do we, in the messy middle of the modern day world, and also women having children older, whether we're in our 30s or even in our 40s, now we're raising younger children. We've got parents that we get to take care of, or maybe even siblings. Like I have a sister who had a stroke a couple of years ago, and she had a mini heart attack last year. And so my mom and I are always in conversation about my sister.
Was this genetic? Was
lifestyle.
this a lifestyle?
This was lifestyle. Yeah.
Interesting.
So it could be siblings that you're taking care of as well. And so the book was really about like, how do we attune ourselves as well to our circadian rhythm, and how do we feed our body to reduce inflammation, to balance our blood sugar, to really support our cellular energy? How do we create community so that we do not feel alone? You were talking about a friend earlier who, she's going to take a moment to kind of reset, and how we have wounds. And exactly. But we have those friends who will let us know when they're going through something, so that they know that, they let us know and they're not alone in that journey.
Yes.
And then I talk about specifically like, okay, even in this messy middle, how do we mitigate some of the stress? What are some of the safety signals we can send our brain? How can we bookend our day, our morning and our evening, that's just ourselves, so that we can show up in the messy middle of the day for whoever needs us.
So let's go back to you and your mom for a second, because I think it's fascinating that here you are seeing patients, but because you only have that 30 minutes, if they were lucky, longer with you, what is it that you don't think you were picking up as a clinician that you understood as the daughter watching somebody go through it? What were you able to see that gave you a full picture to going, oh, my mom's not getting the help she needs?
My mom was 48 years old. Mind you, she had been in perimenopause. This is just when it really got intense, the eye of the storm. This is where we were seeing the crime scene periods and the pretty severe sleep issues, and the, not only the mood changes. My mom, she went to her doctor and was like, is it normal for someone to want to kill people 5 days out of the month? Because she was having really intense rage. And there was a vulnerability there that I was able to get a front row seat to. I saw my mom trying so hard to navigate, trying to will herself through it. My sister was having some of her hardest years at the time. My mom was really stepping in to support her, and there was just no one supporting my mom. And every time she went up for help, at times she got validated, but rarely did she get support. San Francisco has a race called the Beta Breakers. It's a 7 mile, it goes from one side of the city to the next side of the city. And my whole life, my mom was a superwoman. She was a single mom. Like, she had this power walk, and I just felt like she was invincible. She was untouchable. And this was probably around the time all this was happening. She was training with me to do this Beta Breaker race. And I was so excited. And I was really training because, again, this woman was superwoman in my eyes. Like, we were going to run this race. And leading into that, she flies into town. I think the race is on a Sunday. And this poor woman, I make her do a spin class with me. She's in the gym with me the next day. And she's such a good sport. And then we get to the race, and we get about 3 miles in, and my mom can't run it. And I am so upset, and I am so disappointed in my mom because she didn't live up to kind of the woman she'd always been. And I remember just not having a level of compassion that she really deserved. I mean, I had decimated her the day before, doing all these things.
Yeah.
And there's this huge hill in San Francisco, and that's kind of where we kind of hit a wall. But yeah, she was, again, 48, 49 at the time. She was at her edge.
Yeah.
And I kind of pushed her over it that weekend. And, looking back, I've gone back and apologized to her, but I just didn't understand what she was going through, and that she really just didn't have, although she was fully capable. And on the back end of that, this woman could run circles around me today.
Yeah.
She's training for another marathon right this second. I think she's got a marathon in about a month. And she's ran 65 half marathons and marathons.
Yeah.
She started training a couple of years later.
I can't help but think also, note, as an athlete, you wouldn't be taking a spin class.
No.
Or busting your ass the day before, even if you were 25. Just as a note.
I don't know what I was thinking.
We're warming up for the marathon. I think they call it tapering. I think they just pull back a little bit,
yes.
Right? So you have your own, you have your son, you finish nursing, which I feel like you're bulletproof when you're nursing, right? Like everything is happening, your hair and your skin and everything is sort of really abundant, I feel like, when you're nursing. And yes, it has its own set of commitments. I used to joke that I was a human pacifier,
Well, it definitely was.
And all the shapes that you can get into in cars over car seats and in beds and all kinds of things. But there's a part of you that also feels almost like the most alive, strong that you've ever felt.
Mm-hmm.
And coming out of that, pretty close to that, you sort of weren't feeling yourself.
Yeah, I always say that from postpartum to perimenopause, I had like this 5-month runway where sleep started to feel amazing again. I was sleeping well. I had good energy. I was training almost every day, sometimes twice a day, because I was like, I'm 43. It's time to start lifting heavier again. Like I felt like I had the capacity, and I had this 5-month runway, and then all of a sudden I wasn't recovering from my workouts. I was feeling extremely burned out. I wasn't sleeping well again. I was putting on weight, and it felt like I had just fallen off a cliff. And at the time, like so many women, by the time we're 43, 44 years old, we've lived a life. And maybe a life where you've had issues in the past, health issues. And so I had Hashimoto's thyroiditis, and I thought it must be my thyroid. It's got to be my thyroid. Maybe it's my stress response system. Like I'm burning out. Like I was quick to blame it on so many other things and not perimenopause. I was like, it can't be perimenopause.
I just had a baby.
Yeah, I just had a baby. I just barely got my period back, like 7 months prior. And right in the middle of that, a couple of months after I started experiencing these symptoms, I had 2 back-to-back brain injuries.
Can you share what happened?
Yeah, so 2 concussions in a 10-day span. The first concussion, I was at Laguna Beach at a playground, and my son, again, 2.5 years old, was climbing up this metal ladder, and I had a hat on, and he got to the top and wanted me to go down the slide with him. And I decided, because I had been box jumping, that I was going to box jump to that level. I, with as much velocity as I could muster, I box jumped, but I didn't know that there was a metal bar at the top.
Yeah,
and I box jumped into the metal bar and almost fell down this stairwell. I was super, obviously discombobulated and off, but then thought I was okay. And about a week and a half later, my son and I are in the living room, and he had slipped and headbutt me and broke my nose. Yep. And it was the back-to-back. I had like 12 days of migraines, went to the ER, got CT scans, and just to make sure I was good, and was diagnosed with post-concussion syndrome.
Yeah. So you're coming off of having a child, nursing, feeling pretty good, and banging your head a couple of times. So the last thing you're going to think or give attention to is like, first of all, what's my baseline normal? And I'm not there, because you're like, oh, of course, I'm a little off. So when did you go, no, something's up?
So I was in intense brain treatments and protocols for like 90 days, give or take. So this was June, July, I was diagnosed up until late September. It was October, November, December, like clockwork.
Oh, the holidays.
Yeah, the holidays.
The easy time.
When my son turns 3, I would wake up with this deep sense of dread on day 22 of my cycle, almost like clockwork, day 22, day 23. And I was having bouts of rage. And the first month I thought maybe it was still my concussion. Yeah. Like I was like, people have mood issues when they get hit in the head. So I was like, okay, mood issues. And then the second month, and this is why I find it so important, especially in peri, to be tracking your cycle and to be tracking your symptoms along your cycle, because it was that 3 months in a row, like, send me a sign, make it impossible for me to miss. Yeah. This is perimenopause. And that's how I knew. Because labs, I kept catching my labs on the best day. My labs looked great. My hormones were in like relatively optimal levels when I would run them. But the thing about perimenopause is it's really a clinical diagnosis based on symptoms, not on labs.
Yeah, I think that's a really important distinction. And you talk about that extensively in your book, which is you can get a snapshot and it may not be reflective of what you're experiencing at that next week that comes through and all the hard stuff that you're feeling. So, because sometimes I think that that's even harder for somebody where they go, okay, I'm going to get my blood panel done, and then the doctor's going to read it and they're all going to say, well, you're fine.
Always.
Yes.
I feel like that's always the case, especially when it comes to hormones. Well, the range for hormones is so wide. So like if you're like 50 picograms to 350 picograms, normal estrogen levels. Yeah. And I'm just like, that's a big range.
Big.
Yeah.
So you're writing things down, clock it for a few months so you have that kind of consistent roadmap. And I think this is really important. Clock your cycle before you go into your doctor, because basically what they're going to say is, well, go and clock your cycle. If they make that.
If they say that.
If they may.
Yeah.
But if you go in kind of armed with,
ready.
Hey, I've been clocking it, and sort of, the week before I'm going to start bleeding, give or take, right?
Yeah, with that late luteal phase.
Late luteal phase.
That second week.
I'm different.
Yes, things are shifting. I don't feel like myself anymore.
Yes, and that can show up with fatigue and brain fog or anger, anxiety. I mean, there's a myriad.
Low mood, depression.
Yeah.
All of that. Yeah.
A lot of it.
And I think in peri too, it can start to stretch, all of this. Like, let's say you were used to PMS symptoms a couple days before your period, and you're just like, okay, here it is. It kind of takes you by surprise. But then in perimenopause, so many of my patients are like, it's just stretching. Like, it's now this whole luteal phase is me kind of figuring out what's going on with myself.
Yeah. This podcast is brought to you by Fatty 15. I think by now it's pretty obvious how I feel and care about wanting to age well, just stay strong, sharp, and energized. But that doesn't mean that I haven't noticed some changes. I mean, it's natural. Slower recovery, definitely. Joint stiffness, and even some things with my sleep. And it's just not as deep. I've tried a lot of wellness products over the years, but Fatty 15, it's one of those ones that stands out for me. I've been taking it for years. It's powered by something called C15. And C15 is the first essential fatty acid that's been discovered in over 90 years. And it's backed by real science, not hype. C15 helps our cells stay strong and resilient, supporting healthier aging from the inside out. It's vegan, clean, and free of fillers, allergens, and even preservatives. Over 70% of users report benefits like improved sleep, joint function, and even healthier skin and hair within 16 weeks. Plus, it comes in a cute little bottle that's reusable, glass and bamboo, easy to refill. Fatty 15, they're on a mission. They want to optimize your C15 levels to help you live healthier longer. You can get an additional 15% off their 90-day subscription starter kit. And all you have to do is go to fatty15.com/Gabby. And don't forget to use the code Gabby, Gabby, at checkout. That's fatty15.com/Gabby, fatty15.com/Gabby. And don't forget Gabby at checkout for 15% off. So I think there's another emotional thing that happens when we start to enter these phases too that just feels really important to be open about, because it's the passing of time. It's the ability to produce a child, whether you wanted to again, whether you ever want to, whatever the things are. It's sort of like the end of an era.
Yeah.
You're sort of like, oh, that part's over now.
Yeah, there's a grieving.
It's something to notice and to allow.
I agree.
And I think we're so afraid to have these honest feelings. And so we shove them down, which I think does a couple things. One, it's harder on us, period. But also it delays us looking at, okay, well, what's going on?
Yeah, we don't get clear about what the support that we need, whether it's from friends or it's from a provider, maybe it's a therapist or even your partner. Just trying to meet you where you're at. I think also with perimenopause, I think there's a couple things that we can be grieving. A lot of women, when they come to me at 42, 43, 44, it's like, I really don't feel like myself. And I think that there's this interesting interception. It's a metabolic interception, but it's also a brain interception where we know what we have the capability to do. Every woman I know has profound capability. And you remember yourself 6 months ago or 6 years ago, like you're like, I could do all of this. And then there becomes this bandwidth shift where you're like, I don't necessarily have the same bandwidth. I have capability, but my energy capacity has shifted. And that can kind of butt heads as well, where we're just like, who is this new version of me? I'm kind of having to negotiate with myself a little bit, and I don't love it.
Yeah. And
I think there's a grieving in that as well. But also we can reconcile this and say, okay, I'm shifting, I'm changing. I don't know if and I'm surrendering to an upgraded version of myself, a new version of myself. And maybe this is giving me the opportunity and the permission to say, hey, were some of these things that I had said yes to, maybe one, I don't have capacity for it at this point. Maybe I get to say no to some of this. Maybe I get to be more discerning.
That's one of my favorite words. No.
I know. No is great.
It's been one of my favorite words, though, since my 20s. And they just have gotten...
So you were discerning way earlier.
I just think I was very, very busy early, and I didn't want to waste a lot of time. And my friends even knew. Like, we're not going to invite Gabby to go out and party. We're not going to invite Gabby to a girls' weekend. Like, that's just not her thing. And giving yourself permission, because at the end of the day, I always say it's our job to protect our real estate, our lives, and to be really clear, like, this is what I want and I need, and what's it going to take for me to create the realistic environment, not the one I can survive, but the realistic environment that allows me to make that happen, whether it's in pursuit of a profession, a relationship, a family, or just you have a different capacity and you can't stretch yourself that thin. Like, you need to go to bed early or you need your quiet time, and sort of letting that be totally okay, because it's on us to kind of solve it.
It is on us. And it's interesting that, for some of us, some women are really, this is the time where they're learning these lessons, or are really like becoming very clear about their priorities, becoming more direct. This is the reason why we're having this conversation is I think, even in my mom's generation, my mom's time, and very much how she handled it was that I just survived this.
Yeah.
I need to survive through this. And I was like, what if it doesn't have to be that way? Like, what if we can reframe this, and you get to decide that you are a priority. You get to decide that you have ownership on this, and that you get to reprioritize you, and like, what are the obligations? What are the things that are important, and what can you just let go of?
Yeah. And you said something earlier that I think is true to life. That's what all these stages and phases are. It's for us to learn and to be different and not to be the same. And so even though we mourn the loss of her, it's actually to go, oh yes, and this too is natural, and I'm going to celebrate and usher in the next her and allow that. And I don't think it can happen unless we sort of go through these things. And so this actually for me is also a rite of passage. Instead of it being like this thing that happens to us as we get older, it's also the rite of passage to move on into the next. Agreed.
And it feels so good. It feels so good to have my own evening routine and bedtime routine that is just mine. And to lead with me as the priority, knowing that if I am good, like if I feel good, I'm energized, like I am emotionally resilient, that everyone benefits from that.
And that's the important part. It's not selfish. It's smart. So let's just break down people understand testosterone, progesterone, estrogen, but maybe we can just talk about the hormones and how they change, but also what their jobs are.
That's a great question. So up until really recent, we were under this impression, I think society at large, the science shared a very different picture, but that it was very much that these were reproductive hormones. This was bikini medicine, and now we know that these hormones are whole body hormones. And a big part of this book, in part one of the book, is not only understanding these symptoms, but also understanding how the hormones are impacting these symptoms. Perimenopause, the reason why we call it a kind of a zone of chaos or a kind of a reconciliation is that these hormones are declining, and not in a linear fashion. They're declining in an erratic fashion to the point where progesterone can be like not just weekly that they're erratically shifting, they're shifting daily. And so when you are getting that snapshot moment, it really is just a snapshot, So when we think about, let's just give an example. I mean, estrogen, we're talking about its sensitivity to insulin. So its sensitivity to mitochondrial production and facilitation, how mitochondrial function, bone remodeling, muscle protein synthesis. Estrogen is literally the CEO of the brain. And so when our CEO starts to erratically decline,
she's drinking and
yeah, she's just not showing up to work.
Like,
she like, you think about a hormone that emails you, texts you, slacks you.
Yeah.
And then one day doesn't do any of these things anymore.
Not responding.
No, not responding. Shows up whenever she wants, goes home when she does. And the brain's just like, what is going on? And so the brain is massively remodeling, trying to kind of modulate based on the fact that it's losing this vital CEO. Mm-hmm. But estrogen is also, think about collagen production and protecting ligaments and synovial fluid of our joints. Every aspect of the body, it's modulating the immune system. So when we think about it's helping to keep our vascular walls, healthy. And so as that hormone's declining, we start to see kind of inflammation in multiple areas of the body. We see an increase in insulin resistance for some women. Again, a loss of bone, a loss of muscle. And we really do feel that brain change, that whether it's cognitive changes or emotional changes, hot flashes, night sweats, sleep issues, it can feel like a cacophony of a lot of different symptoms. Progesterone, I think about progesterone as a really profound neuroendocrine hormone as well. In terms of activating GABA, helping to reduce anxiety, support sleep. It's just that chill pill hormone, but it's doing so much more. It's modulating inflammation in the brain as well. It's reducing inflammation. Ultimately, progesterone is a powerful immune system modulator. It really calms the immune system down, but it also is deeply involved in our metabolic health. We think about progesterone as just being uterine protective. Women are only given progesterone when they have a uterus. And it breaks my heart to see how the knowledge gap, that this hormone can do so much more for our body. It has receptor sites all over the body, but particularly the brain. Like, why would we ever deny a woman progesterone if she's got symptoms that warrant the need for it just because she doesn't have a uterus?
Right.
And then testosterone. So testosterone, we think about...
I love testosterone.
Yeah, it's a growth hormone.
I love it.
It's a build you up hormone.
I love it.
So think about all the ways that you feel built up. Motivation, confidence, your brain feeling like it is firing on all cylinders, building muscle, having energy and stamina, endurance and power. And these are all the things that we want to feel. This is how we thrive. And so testosterone is very much a thrive hormone in the body. And so when it begins to decline, we really feel that as well.
So we know what the hormones do and can continue to do. Then you sort of go on talking about your metabolic health and sort of some other kind of key players in supporting us, and if they're off.
Yeah, we do know that these hormones are very integral in how our metabolic health is thriving. And so as they do decline, we get to be more strategic. We know that estrogen has a very intimate relationship, as I mentioned earlier, with insulin. And insulin is a really profound hormone, not only for fat storage, but also for regulating blood glucose. Right. And ultimately, when it's it's sensitive and it's working properly for us, it really helps to protect us. But when we start to see an increase in insulin resistance, which a lot of us are struggling with even before we're in perimenopause, we find that perimenopause becomes this window of vulnerability because many of us, our hormones were kind of keeping it at bay. Right. We had this protective shield. And then when that protective shield begins to falter, we start to notice body composition changes. We know that we're losing muscle, and that's happening with aging, but that's accelerated into menopause. We start to see, changes in our overall energy, our mental energy, physical energy. And so across the board, we're noticing all of these metabolic changes. And as a result, there are these silent shifts that begin to happen. It's really in perimenopause that I see women's blood pressure begin to start to creep. It's in perimenopause that lipids they start to go in an unfavorable direction. Fasting glucose starts to move towards prediabetes. And I find that in the medical or healthcare system, we're not connecting the dots between hormones declining and our metabolic resilience beginning to falter as a result. And I think when we look at it from the perspective like, so our bodies are shifting, this protective shield is beginning to falter, what can we do to preserve our overall metabolic health? And more importantly, how are we future-proofing our health in this zone of vulnerability and zone of metabolic opportunity?
I think what you just said might be one of the most important things you could say in this conversation, because I think we try to deal with each thing separately instead of the whole collective, and actually sometimes it's none of those things. It's actually your hormones. Mm-hmm. And so
it's because of our hormones.
Yes. Yeah. And so we go, I have a heart thing, or I have this thing. It's like, well, actually that's just a signal that these other things are not happening. And I think that's really important, because I also believe the sooner we can get on top of it, it's an easier correction than we suck it up for 3 to 5 years. And then before you know it, we're trying to put out huge fires instead of just dampen, some smoldering ashes that we could probably deal with pretty quickly.
Agreed.
Yeah. So I believe that's really important.
When I think, as you touched upon, is this myth that is perpetuated in perimenopause in particular, that it's just chaos that's happening, and you just be in chaos. Yeah. And then we come out on the other side and you're just like, there's nothing you can do about that now.
You're just old now. Now you're just old.
And none of this is helpful.
Right. And none of it is actually true.
And so I always tell women, you're not broken. Yes, hormones are declining and shifting. And with the right support and tools, there is so much that we can do. We get to decide how this plays out for us. But I also want women to know that in the midst of that chaos, silent shifts are potentially happening. These subtle symptoms are signals. They're telling us something that we, if we're listening, we can really pick up on. We can get that support. We can advocate for that support. And then we can begin to make strategic changes that will propel us into what I consider to be the most powerful chapter of our lives, because it's now on our terms.
That's right. And I mean, this is a side note. There's something kind of fun, you don't have to worry about getting pregnant.
And you stop caring about what people think. You start being about your own business. Yeah. You really are focused on you. And the most important is that you are standing on your hard-won lessons and your accomplishments. You get a catapult from that. That is powerful.
It is.
No one gets to take that from you. Right. But I will tell you, you can really catapult if you've got a healthy foundation in place.
Yeah, it makes it easier. Yeah, it's like a glide factor. Yeah, momentum.
Now you really get that momentum.
Yeah, it's nice.
That's what I'm banking on, even on the days that are not my favorite days. I get migraines.
And that's the other part of it, right? Is if something, if a couple days or a week is bumpy, that's okay too.
That's okay too. And it's going to be a bit bumpy. I'm very honest in this book that although I lay out all of the research-backed strategies and habit stacks, and I want to make it empowering, not overwhelming, that there's going to be days that, you may not be feeling so hot. Yeah. And that, if anything, that just reminds you to stay the course. Stay the course.
Yeah, that's right. This podcast is brought to you by Transcriptions. I really want to have optimizing energy without burning out my nervous system. And that's why I've been using Just Blue from Transcriptions. It's been a total game changer for me. It's a pharmaceutical grade 16 milligram methylene blue troche. So there's no sugar, no stimulants, no crash, just clean energy, sharp focus, and real mitochondrial support. The only thing is, I always go into light, red light, or sun right after taking. So you can place it very easy in between your cheek and gum. It kicks in fast, no liver processing, and I felt it dial me in for workouts, deep work, long days. It's like flipping a switch into high efficiency mode. And unlike so many of the methylene blues out there, this stuff is clean. It's potent and it's third-party tested. Transcriptions does it right. Try Just Blue at transcriptions.com/Gabby, or you can use the code Gabby, Gabby at checkout for 10% off. That's Transcriptions, Transcriptions.com/Gabby for 10% off your first order. Clean energy, clinical grade, you will feel the difference. We talk a lot at any age that the only time we really recover is in our sleep, and the importance of sleep for our brains. If you have someone who's talking to you and they go, yeah, I try to, I'm not sleeping, if we can get your hormones worked out and get you resting, what are some of the other things that you encourage women as far as, sleep preparation? And you talked about you have your own personal little kind of ritual that you do before bed.
I do. Let's start with dinner. Because I believe that dinner is, it kind of kicks off the nighttime routine in a lot of ways. I have put continuous glucose monitors on women for years, and we kind of see that, you could have salmon and salad, like a really healthy dinner at 6 o'clock, and then have that same dinner at 8:30. Mm-hmm. We're going to see a different blood sugar response. We're just becoming, understandably so, we're diurnal beings. We're running on a circadian clock, and as melatonin is on the rise and cortisol is ideally on the downfall, we're going to see insulin begin to go relatively more resistant as the evening progresses. And so ideally, if we could focus on eating at least 3 hours before bed, that allows your digestive system and all the processes that break down that food to kind of be calm before bed, so it's not messing with your sleep. Ideally, we're not drinking alcohol before bed.
I know people really, this bums them out. And I've been... The only thing I'll ever do is a hard kombucha now and again, but I'm not a drinker my whole adult life. And I often joke that I'll go and, maybe go with a group and talk, and we'll talk about lifestyle and all these great things. And I swear I lose them.
When the alcohol piece.
They go, well, do you drink alcohol? And I'm like, and I'm ready, and they're like, I don't. I mean, it's ethanol, right? It's disruptive, and
it's a poison.
Yeah.
I think every relationship that we have, particularly those types of relationships, get to be under review.
Yeah.
Even if it's for a month, just to see, how am I waking up? A lot of people will say, like, I'm not fully hungover. I'm like, yeah, but are you fuzzy or foggy?
They
or
don't
just
know
a
the
little bit
difference.
off?
That's the problem. Is a lot of times when people are going so hard and living and alcohol is a regular part, they don't know the difference anymore. It's like, think about people who, they're constipated, they're not sleeping, all these things. They just think, oh, that's just how you feel. They don't have a gauge for what feeling good or feeling rested is like. So I think that's an important distinction.
I agree.
For them to get a peek of like, oh, wait a second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I have that 5-week reset program in this book that, you get 5 weeks to really get a sense. Like if you don't feel it because kind of that default mode is just not feeling super great, like, let's take a look. Like, let's do an experiment. I will put on a wearable for somebody for just even 30 days and just like watch that HRV tank, watch your sleep score tank, watch all these things. Like, what happens on the days that you're not drinking at night? And then let's compare it to the days that you are drinking at night. And let's see what the data says, especially if you're not attuned to your body.
Yeah. And this is where your community comes in. I think this is an important part. You talk about it in the book. But this extends beyond someone to book a workout class with or a friend to go meet up for a walk. This extends to also other people that will encourage you that when you gather, it won't be around alcohol.
So all of my friends, we gather and we don't drink alcohol.
Yeah.
I'm planning a Friendsgiving with multiple friends and family members and couples, and there won't be, people are allowed to bring wine.
Do what you want.
Sure, do what you want.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to be serving it. I'm going to be making really sexy, blood sugar friendly mocktails.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, if somebody wants to take an edge off, I'm like microdose or something, mushrooms or something. I mean, like whatever. But I think there's other tools out there that don't crush you the same way.
I agree. There's a lot of other things we can do. Adaptogenic herbs, adaptogenic mocktails, different things that can kind of take the edge off. Go outside for a walk. Watch the sunset. Like, that'll calm your nervous system.
Yeah.
I that's kind of my cure-all for everything is go out for a walk outside.
So your nighttime routine, what does that look like?
Yes. So
with a small child.
Yeah, with a small child.
That probably has a bedtime-ish.
Yes. He has a bedtime routine. That's the one thing. There's a lot of consistencies in his life, and his bedtime routine is one of them. So lights are off by 8:05, 8:10. Then I have about 30 minutes, give or take, to do the things that you were talking about, whether it's responding to an email or watching a little TV or just kind of putzing around the house, unloading the dishwasher, those types of things. 8:45 to 8:55, this is where my nighttime routine kicks. So I am downstairs in the kitchen. I am doing my supplement stack. And for me, it's omegas, it's magnesium. I take a couple of things to reduce inflammation because I have an autoimmune condition. So I have my own little stack. I make a sleepy tea, which is basically like a holy basil, lavender kind of adaptogen tea. And I have my emotional support water, right? This bad boy right here. And I do all of that. I go upstairs. And the moment that door shuts, that I am on my own time. Like, it is my time. Unless my son wakes up and he needs me because he had a nightmare or something like that, like, nobody can bother me at this point. My husband and I, we sleep in separate rooms, so I'm in my own space.
You do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, I've been hearing about sleep divorce a lot.
I'm sleep divorced, yeah.
Interesting.
So the door's shut, like,
That's
you
so
better have
interesting.
grabbed your underwear. Like,
are you serious?
I'm serious.
This is like old school, like king and queen behavior. It must make sex a little more interesting in a way. I mean, kind of like, we're sneaking away together.
Yeah, it's a little bit, definitely. So I have my beauty routine, and that takes about 10 minutes, give or take. But we have blackout curtains. We already have lighting set up. So, and that's an easy fix. Like, you can get dim lighting or more amber lighting. Once you set the lights for your house or your room and bathroom, they're there. Like, it's a one-time switch.
Yeah.
We have everything's been cooling down already, so that, the thermostat's been doing its thing. And then I get into bed. I have a gratitude practice that I do at night that's just being grateful for all the things that happen for my day. If I find that I have a little bit of, like, I'm wired and tired a tiny bit, I'll just jot down my 3 big rocks for the next day to kind of just get clarity, to kind of just brush that out, so my brain stops spinning. And then I'm reading a fiction book for about 30 minutes, give or take.
Fiction. Go big.
Romantasy.
Nice.
Yeah, romantic fantasy. And then usually my sleep cue, like my body's internal cue, kicks around 9:50, 9:55. Light is off by 10. And so I'm usually asleep at 10:05, and then I'm awake by 6:15.
And if somebody isn't, like Laird it would disappoint him greatly if we were not sleeping in the same bed. Everybody's different.
Yeah.
And a good friend of mine, Leanne, said, she taught me about, though, that even sheeting your bed separately, so your duvets are separate and your sheet is separate, so if they turn, they don't yank, that was also really helpful for her in her sleep. And so there's other
ways.
Yeah,
get in where you
every
fit
situation,
in. Yeah.
and this is important because it goes back to tailoring things. I think it's important for people to recognize, okay, within the way that we're living, how can I have these little practices? Because also what you're doing is your body is getting into that habit, and it knows, it's getting to be time to go to sleep.
If there's anything that you get away from this book and even from that sleep routine, is that it's rooted in consistency. So whatever works for you, just be consistent with that, because our bodies really thrive on consistency. And that consistency and routine rooted in helping you to get good quality sleep. And so a big part of that as well is I'm moving my body throughout the day so that I'm getting deeper restful sleep at night. Yeah. Just a lot of ways that I'm helping to re-engineer my sleep routine that starts even as early as the morning and throughout the day.
Yeah. I'm a huge advocate, always have been, of lifting weight. I grew up my whole life in a gym. I'm not afraid to be in a male space and be like, I'm grabbing that dumbbell or whatever. Yeah. But if someone hasn't, I think the important distinction is heavyweight doesn't mean heavyweight.
No, heavyweight does not mean heavyweight.
Right.
This is what heavyweight means. If you have been lifting those same 5 pounds or 8 pound weights for years, months, it's the weights you always pick up. Let's level those up a couple pounds.
Yeah.
Let's get some 10s and 12s.
Yeah.
And that's what I really mean. And I think, and we just progressively move forward. If the other day I had my 25s, and I've been lifting these 25s for some months now, and I was like, it's time to pick up those 30s. Because I'm training for my future self. I was on a flight today coming here, and someone tried to help me with my luggage because I am 5'2". So I get it. They're like, can she even reach that? And I was like, I trained for this.
I love that. Sometimes I'll be somewhere and someone's like, can I carry that for you? And I say, listen, why do I train if I can't in real life carry my own bag?
Mm-hmm. And you want freedom. That's always what I say. I'm training so that I don't have to negotiate with myself 10, 20, 30 years down the road. I give an example. My mom could literally shot put my son. She could race him. She has raced him. She can be on the ground. She can be on the playground. She's 65 years old. And man, she makes it look so easy. She just has the capacity. She's got the strength. She's got the power and endurance. And I want what my mom's got. Yeah.
You said an important word that I'm a big advocate of, which is freedom. And I think that this whole conversation actually is about real freedom, because it is actually the most freeing time in life.
Yes.
Because you have enough experience where you don't have to worry about every little thing. You've learned like, oh, that's going to be okay. And you're not as self-conscious. You're not worried about like, do they like me? All the things that you have to go through as a younger person. So I think the notion of freedom, I don't know that women come in contact with the idea of how free you can be at this time in your life.
Oh, yes. And when you've got good cellular energy, sky's the limit.
Yeah. I want to just talk a little bit about, you have in your phases. So you talk about a metabolic food map. And, people hear about processed foods and it's hard to get away from because it's everywhere and most things are processed, but this really does make a huge difference.
Yes, it does.
Eating real food.
People,
people ask me all the time, they go, what do you eat? I go, plants and animals.
Yeah.
I love popcorn. I eat that once in a while. That's not great. That's not great for you. By the way, if I eat popcorn later in the day, my heart rate goes through the roof. I can feel it.
Interesting.
And that's what you talked about earlier, is just how food impacts us later in the day. And also when we're rested and when we're tired. I think that you could eat the same thing at the same time. When you're rested, your blood sugar, everything is level.
It's level, stable.
When you're tired
and exhausted and kind of running on fumes,
it'll kill you.
Yeah, it'll totally deregulate.
Yeah.
And your blood sugar is just in its own right. I think any substrate you put into the system is gonna,
Right. So real food, everyone. And we've been proteined to death, I think, for about the last 12 months. You can only digest, about 30, 35 grams at a sitting?
Give or take.
Right. So I'm somewhere between 176 and 180 pounds, which is like a whole other language compared to your weight, right? But realistically, when women come to you and they don't have a relationship with their food and their body quite yet, and they're building one, what do you suggest on the protein? I
don't want protein to become a second job.
I know, that's the thing. And then they're like, protein powder, and it's like, so how do you sort of ease them into it? Because it's just another thing not to miss.
I know.
You're like, I failed today. It's like, no, you didn't.
Yeah, that's what I'm usually recommending to my patients or anyone in my community is like, do your best to start your morning with a metabolically healthy meal, something that's savory. So whether that's eggs, maybe it's a little bit leftovers are great. Sure, it can be a protein shake if you want, but I think if you can set the tone for your morning, you set the tone for the rest of your day. Obviously, I'm making the recommendation of somewhere between 25 to 35 grams, but I get that it doesn't always work for every single meal. Right. So I say do your best to hit at least 30 grams or so in the morning, and then make it up. I think most of us are getting more protein in the evening, so if we can at least have a benchmark of the morning and the evening, we kind of fill it in the day. But I said don't stress on it. Like if it's causing you more stress than it's worth, then I don't know if it's doing you any favors in that sense.
I think awareness, mindfulness of what you're eating and diversity is as important about worrying about all these numbers. And you do get into, and I think it's important, sort of minerals and micronutrients and macronutrients, and just the importance and reminding people of those diversities, because it does support your gut.
It supports your gut, but also your overall, again, metabolic health is the sum of all the catabolic and anabolic processes that are happening in every single cell in the body. We're talking at a cellular level. We need micronutrients in order for those processes to happen. And we get that through a diverse array of plants. That's where we get that. We can get a tiny bit from protein, but it's mostly plants. The way that I love to talk about it is I want you to be thinking about how every time we're eating, be thinking like, is this going to fuel my future brain? I think for women, especially in this neuroendocrine transition where their brain is feeling like it's shifting, and the whole purpose of the kind of the metabolically healthy plate that I talk about in the book is really, you don't necessarily need the meal plan or the recipes. Those are all examples, but that you're always thinking about building a plate in this way. That's fueling your body, and that's fueling your family's body.
Yeah. And a big part of the conversation was around peace and calm. You know, I find myself regulating all day long. It's become automatic at this point. When I notice I'm moving too close to stress, something in me, whether it's my brain or my instincts, are like, pull it back. I
am the same way. I'm regulating my nervous system throughout the day. For me, again, it's a walk outside. It's even looking, like I was looking at your view and just looking 10 feet out, just observing all the trees, and maybe there's butterflies or the sky. And when you just are able to look out, that shifts your state. That puts you into a more calming space. If you're really in a state of fight, freeze, or run, that kind of that fight or freeze state, start naming things that are in the room. Like, oh, that's a book, it's blue. Oh, those are green curtains, that's a light, that's a camera, that's a picture. And that kind of helps the brain reframe back to the prefrontal cortex. And then you kind of bring in the breath work, tell the body that you're okay. But I'm a big proponent of same thing as you, is that I am just punctuating my day with a lot of different self-care rituals and ways to regulate my nervous system.
Yeah, and that's why I exercise first thing in the morning. Well, first of all, my cortisol's high. Good time to train. Usually it's going to be one of the first things that gets knocked off my schedule. If
you don't get it done in the morning.
But you're a big advocate of exercise snacking.
I am.
What's your acronym? NEAT?
It's non-exercise activity thermogenesis.
Yes.
I just talk about all the ways that we can move, because I really wanted to meet any reader where she's at. And I know that some of my readers, just like my patients, are clocking less than 4,000 steps a day. I don't even think they realize that they're not moving at all. Like, that's kind of where we're starting. And so how do I get you to just consider, walking up the stairs to an office meeting, or parking further away from the grocery store, or, having a trampoline where you're kind of jumping on a mini trampoline for a minute in between meetings. So that would be more kind of neat, where you're sweeping after dinner.
Yeah.
You're folding laundry standing while you're watching TV versus sitting. So these are all the types of like non-exercise activity thermogenesis. And I think about, when we look at the Blue Zone research, they're not going to core power.
No, they're not doing high rocks.
They're not doing exactly. No, they're not doing Bulgarian split squats. They're walking to and from the store every day. They're going to the mail. They're just physically active. They're gardening. They're just constantly moving their body. They are building their life around movement. That's how I think about NEAT. And then we've got the exercise snacks. And this is for, the day where you're not able to get in the gym. Although, even 20 minutes and 15 minutes, I just want to, you don't have to be in there for a long time. You just
Especially
need to make it
thoughtful.
Yeah, it's quality. Even, a 50-minute workout, and then you sit for 6 hours for the rest of the day, you're basically negating, because you're living a sedentary lifestyle at that point. And so what if we carved out these bursts of movement throughout the day? And examples of this are going to be mountain climbers, jack squats, jumping jacks. Jump squats are my favorite. Push-ups. It could be going up and down your stairs with weights, jumping on a rebounder or a mini trampoline. Any of this, whatever is going to get your heart rate up, that's going to boost your metabolism. It's going to help you burn fat. Most importantly, you're going to have more mental clarity. You're going to sleep better, and you're going to have more energy. So I do exercise snacks after every meal. And I do exercise snacks on the plane. I do them everywhere.
That's because you're 5'2". Try seeing my big ass 6'3" person like squatting. They'd be like, "What's that bitch doing in the plane?" You know what I mean?
I usually ask the flight attendants if I can go stand in the back with them, or like in between the bathrooms. Yeah. And that's where I'm doing my exercise snacks. Yeah. And again, a lot of the things in terms of the exercise snacks, you don't need equipment. We're talking about just jumping, or if jumping feels like it's too much, or you're worried about your knees, maybe it's jumping jacks. And I feel like we all can do some jumping jacks. I mean, it is a mindset shift about okay, how am I going to build movement in? But once you're in the habit, I take a couple of weeks to kind of get into this habit. All of a sudden, you are finding ways to punctuate your life with movement, especially when it's only 2 minutes.
And that's the thing. It's 2 minutes.
It's 2 minutes. Like when I'm running his bath, I'm doing squats.
Yeah, I could doom scroll for 8 minutes and not notice. Yeah. So I think it's important. What occurs to me when I hear you say this, though, is going back to how we're hardwired, which is to do less whenever we can. Because I think what happens is a lot of us feel this weird feeling of like, well, why don't I want to? And I don't think it's about feeling like you want to. It's about deciding it's an opportunity and that you're going to choose to do it. And you get that reward enough times after you do it that I think that fight becomes easier.
All of this is about deciding.
Yeah.
It's about deciding how you really want to feel, And so anytime I'm doing, whether it's jump squats on the plane or it's walking down around the block, but while my coffee is being made, it just feels so good. Yeah. And I just hope people hear that, because the one thing I will say about perimenopause is that we know you're going to experience some signs and some symptoms. And one of the best ways that we can mitigate a lot of these symptoms, particularly the brain-related symptoms, the mood symptoms, is movement. And I mean, to me, that's worth it.
Yeah. This podcast has been brought to you by Laird Superfood. I know it's not fair. Laird Superfood was started in my kitchen, so yes, I'm excited to share it with you. It was started about 10 years ago. Not only does my entire family consume it, but Laird and I work on every product. What goes in the bag, the testing, we have really strict guardrails, but forget all that. It is so delicious. We've got coffees, Peruvian high altitude, low acidic coffees. We've got delicious creamers, bars, greens. But the thing I want to share with you today is our instant category. Now, a lot of times people think, oh, instant. Believe me, not only do we not sacrifice on ingredients, but it is so delicious and so convenient. So let's say you're on the go. Maybe you're working in an office or traveling on an airplane, or maybe heading to college. I love our instant category so much because all you have to do is add hot water. If you like to ice your stuff, you can easily do that too, but it's so easy to use. It has high level coffee ingredients with our creamers. We've got instant latte, instant mocha, our latest instant vanilla latte. It is so delicious. I'm not a real vanilla girl, but I love this instant vanilla latte. Why? First of all, we use real vanilla, no natural flavors, no artificial flavors, no weird ingredients. Just incredible ingredients, MCT oil, so really nice for your energy, that sustained energy. You don't crash and kind of get like caffeine up and jittery down. Just a nice smooth delivery. And again, it's so simple to use. All you do is add hot water wherever you are. So if you've never checked out Laird Superfood, by all means, see if what product suits your lifestyle the best. But I want to tell you, I love our instant products. And if you're not a coffee drinker, I even have instant matcha, really, really trendy, and instant chai. And if you want to, head to lairdsuperfood.com. And if you put in the code Gabby20, so it's LAIRDSUPERFOOD.com. And don't forget to use the code Gabby, GABBY 20 at checkout for 20% off your entire order. I promise you will find something that not only you love, but will make your life just a little tastier, easier, and more energized. So HRT.
Yeah.
Hormone.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah. So I just actually personally started that about 8 weeks ago.
How you feeling?
I feel good. I was feeling really good. For me personally, I've been pretty disciplined my adult life. My physique didn't really change too much. I mean, your skin changes.
Your skin, I know. It's these, you're like, what is this?
Oh shit, what is this?
What is this?
I often joke with Laird, I go,
neck
listen.
thing.
Yeah, I go, I don't do fillers or any of that stuff. I said, but I would consider getting my face pulled. Like I go, if the face falls all the way, like I can't exercise that. I can't meditate that up. Like if at some point I look in the mirror and I go, I'm open to all things. Obviously all those things are really personal, but I'm like, okay, my skin has changed and my ability to build muscle has certainly changed. Because I've always been interested in building muscle, and now I'm interested in maintaining strength,
muscle.
maintaining strength
And power.
Yeah. So at 55, I was feeling really good, and then in the summer, in July, I had a 2-week period where I started a couple of hot flashes, real ones. And I was like, oh, okay, here we go. And I was still getting my cycle. But then there was a day, and I had been traveling. We were in Europe, and I felt disoriented. And I can feel a lot of things, but I am not usually, I don't feel disoriented. And I remember clocking it and thinking, oh, that's something new. So that night in bed, it was 2 a.m. and Laird woke up because we were still on a different time zone, and he was like, "Are you okay?" And I got really upset, and I was like, "I feel off." And he said to me, he goes, "I get it." And he goes, "I feel off sometimes," which was also like permission to know,
that's
like
really sweet.
Yeah, because I think we, I mean, obviously men have a different cycle. Theirs is daily and reactive, and our hormone system is not, and their stuff is delayed way later. But I think sometimes we don't realize that they have their own feelings about getting older as well.
Absolutely.
So I came home immediately and got my blood work done and looked at it and realized. And so I went on an estradiol patch, progesterone at night, and then I take a shot of testosterone because I had experienced at 50 AFib, because my hormones were changing, and the suggestion was an oral testosterone because maybe my training load was too much and my workload was too much given hormones and everything changing, and then I could feel my heart rate, and it went on for a long time. So I had my heart checked, which was fine. So that was sort of something that I navigated, and it went away after I took the testosterone. It was pretty great. Just brought some buoyancy. So I feel good. I'm sleeping a little better. I personally have never been a good sleeper. It is the one thing that I am always working on.
How has the progesterone, has it helped?
Yeah, it's not so tragic at 2 and 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
Like literally you want to burn it all down, So that seems to have diminished. And now it's just I can fall asleep. It's staying asleep.
Yeah.
Is the thing. So that's the thing I'm working on. So the rituals help me. I use a breathing practice if I wake up, just do some box breathing. But I have a lot of friends that are calling me because they look at me as somebody who like, would you do it? Would you do it? And I was like, I started because for a long time I didn't. So I got all the way through past 55 and a half. And I was like, maybe I'm going to ride this out and just exercise and eat my way through it. And I hit a little bit of a speed bump. So I was like, I'm not going to fight it. So it's been really positive.
And Gabby, you get to have all of it. You get to have all the tools in the toolbox. I want women to know that they get to have all of it. Like not a half solution, but a whole comprehensive protocol, including HRT.
Yeah.
Because they can optimize, particularly when we start to feel things are off. And we know, especially when you're dialed, you're like, this isn't computing. Like I'm doing all the things.
Yeah.
And so that is the last pillar of the 7 pillars, because I really wanted to lead with a lifestyle medicine. Because I do believe that it's important for us to be good hosts for our hormones. And then I wanted women to understand and to be able to have enough knowledge so that they can start the conversation with their doctor or provider. People ask, well, when should I start hormones?
Yeah, I'm kind of, and when I read it in your book, I was like, oh, maybe I should have started sooner. Because you're sort of saying,
I'm saying perimenopause. But if you were feeling great,
I was.
Then there we go.
Yeah, but I did appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. There's new research coming out right now that's really demonstrating that if we start women on HRT in perimenopause, even if it's late peri, their quality of life is significantly more improved. But more importantly, that we are really shoving back those chronic conditions. So they have more heart protection, they have more brain protection, more bone and muscle protection, cardiometabolic protection. And so I always tell women, the moment that you're starting to not feel like yourself anymore, whether it's the sleep issues or the brain fog or the mood swings or the low stress tolerance, or even you're not recovering or you're having palpitations, like that's the time to have the conversation with your doctor.
And I really appreciated giving people permission because of one study that they published so many years ago. There's an entire generation of women that had to white knuckle it through,
including my mom.
Yeah. And what's fascinating is like, well, there's cancer in my family. It's like, oh God, like people still hold on to that idea about how dangerous it is. So I think there's, a lot of research out there that is supportive of HRT.
Unfortunately, we still have a ways to go. We're talking at least a decade or so before it's readily accessible to women. Yeah. But if you want it, you can go and get it. I'm just saying your doctor is not probably going to have the conversation with you. You're going to have the conversation with your doctor. And there's going to be your primary or even your OB-GYN may not have menopause or perimenopause care experience. They may not have ever prescribed hormone replacement therapy. And so just note that if you're feeling discouraged, I'm sorry, and it's not fair. And there are doctors that are prescribing. Yeah. So you can find somebody. Call your nearest compounding pharmacist. Ask who's prescribing hormones. Yeah. Get those numbers. Start making the call.
Yeah. And even like me, I went through Joy and Blokes because they're friends of mine.
Oh yeah, Joy and Blokes. So I love Joy. Yes. I send patients to, well, not patients, but friends, and to get labs at least.
Telemedicine, like there's a workaround. So to your point, and I love a compounding pharmacy. Hopefully they don't try to take those away.
Hopefully they don't try to take them. And I love Joy. I love Midi Health. I love Joy. I love My Alloy. The one thing I will say about telemedicine is accessibility is there, but you may get more of a cookie cutter approach. Yes. And so just note that it's a great starting point, but you're probably still going to need to advocate for yourself, especially in perimenopause, who you are and what your hormones are doing at 41.
So fine.
Yeah, it's so fine. Yep. It's going to change throughout the years, and you want to be working with someone who understands that.
Yeah. So if someone is listening to this and they go, okay, well, you said that the blood tests are, it's so different.
Yeah.
So what would you do? What would be the most, productive way? Which blood panels? Are they at different times, at different, before they sort of approach something like HRT or to get a real snapshot? How do you tell people to go about that process?
That's a great question. So yes, when we're looking at progesterone, and again, that's the first hormone that's going to often drop. The progestation hormone that's driven by ovulation is going to be the hormone that's going to decline first. And it makes a lot of sense in terms of an evolutionary standpoint. The only way we can test for progesterone and to get that peak is going to be 7 days after ovulation or 7 days before your period. Now, I get that throughout perimenopause, for some women, that gets really wonky. It gets inconsistent. I mean, what designates late perimenopause is you're not having a period for more than 60 days. So at that point, it's a crapshoot. You're basically at that point, you're just testing at any day of the month. But testosterone can be tested on quote unquote in a 28-day cycle on day 21 as well. You want the full testosterone panel, so free, total, sex hormone binding globulin, because you want to make sure that are you really not making it, or is it getting bound up by that protein? Estrogen can be tested on day 21 as well. As long as we know when you tested, we kind of have a sense of where that hormone should be. But you can also test estrogen in the first 4 days of your cycle as well. That's when we're looking at follicular stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. And how we determine a woman's in menopause, besides the fact that she hasn't had a period for 12 consecutive months, is that your follicular stimulating hormone is going to be increased. It's going to be elevated, like above a 25, close to a 30 or more. Unless you're on hormone replacement therapy.
Right.
And then we're suppressing that FSH. You know, when you're advocating for your labs, I have the metabolic labs are in the book. The rest of the labs made it into the resource section. And I give you a complete lab guide with references. So when you're told that your blood sugar, which is 97 milligrams per deciliter, is in normal range, you're going to know that it's creeping towards prediabetes. So I think that's really important. Unfortunately, right now, a lot of our doctors, you know, they're looking, is it green or in the red? Is it in pathology or not?
Right.
And there's so much nuance, you know, as we move closer into pathology that we could catch, particularly in perimenopause. And the more that we can kind of look at that information for ourselves, again, it's not fair. We shouldn't have to really know this, but just this the time that we live in. Like, it's, the more that you know about your body, the more that you can understand your own biomarkers, you can really advocate for yourself, or you can make the real-time changes for your own health.
So this is a little bit off topic, but on topic. So you said that you have Hashimoto's.
I do.
So there's a different approach, and I didn't learn this till a little more recently, about preparing to get pregnant.
Yes.
Can you share that? Because I think that this is, I haven't heard it much, and it feels really important because I feel like a lot of women have thyroid issues. To sort of some things that you have to do or look out for when you are navigating a thyroid situation.
Are we talking about conception particularly, or prepping for conception?
Yeah, I think because you need to.
Absolutely. Particularly with Hashimoto's. So I got diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroiditis at 38 years old. It was actually at the time where I was going to start trying to conceive. That makes sense, 38. And when I got my thyroid labs looked pretty good. They weren't optimal, but my antibodies were significantly high. And so easily missed by the average doctor who will not run antibodies and who really only look at a thyroid stimulating hormone and a free T4. And it's just not enough information for us, especially if a woman's looking to prep for conception. So we looked at the full gamut of labs, and I decided that what was in my best interest, and this is what I often tell my autoimmune Hashimoto's patients, that if you're looking to conceive, give yourself a full year. Let's see if we can roll these antibodies back, like we can get them close to remission. And so I spent a year doing an autoimmune protocol, rolling back those antibodies. And I got them almost into remission by the time I started to prep for conception. And when it comes to conception, not only do we need progesterone and estrogen and the sex hormones and good egg quality, but also we need enough robust thyroid hormone, particularly T3. And we need to make sure that T4 is converting over to T3. And so your OBGYN is often not looking at that full panel of labs. So ideally, maybe working with a functional doctor who can look at all of that in a meaningful way and see if that needs to be optimized. For me, that meant increasing my thyroid medication leading into conception, throughout the pregnancy, and also postpartum. So I was on a higher dose of thyroid hormone for over 2 years.
Yeah, and it supports the fetus.
It absolutely supports the fetus. It's necessary.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring that up since you mentioned that you were navigating your own thyroid situation. Okay, last question, and actually very off topic, but it's really been on my mind. Would you get a mammogram?
Would I?
Yeah.
I have.
Yes.
Yes.
But would you today? Would that be your first choice? Because about 10 years ago, I went to a TED Talk, and the head of cancer research said, I'm going to say 2 things that get me in trouble. He said one thing about prostate cancer, and he said the second thing was he felt at times there needed to be a conversation around the amount of exposure we get.
In mammograms.
And so I started getting ultrasounds after that. But this is also something that it's really beat into us as we get older, especially to be getting continuous exams and mammograms. And I don't want to, I'm not here to get anyone into trouble, but I am here to bring up things that at least people can question if that's like what they want to do.
Yeah, I love this question. I think you can rotate, especially if there's not a significant amount of risk, you know, and gosh, it's very nuanced, and it's not, again, I wish our protocols were more clear for women as they navigated this.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of like, liability's sake, how do I protect women? How do I make sure that they're safe?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of mammogram exposure can wear on women over time. Yeah, it's very nuanced. I think it's a conversation that you've got to have with your doctor and really be willing to have maybe multiple conversations, getting second opinions.
Yeah.
Is really what I would say.
And that's why I bring it up, because I feel like the more people can be, we talk about informed consent.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's what I'm interested in.
Yes.
Whether
agreed.
it's your health of your child, everyone in your house, your friends. It's just that informed consent, and it's people understanding questions to ask. Your book is The Perimenopause Revolution, and I really appreciate how diligent and comprehensive and what a workbook it is for people, and giving them the tools to really just structure it the way that is going to work for them wherever they are. I really appreciate the way you did that.
Thank you.
Remind people all the places they can find you.
Energized with Dr. Mariza, that's going to be the podcast. The book is everywhere books are sold. You want all the bonuses, including a lab tracker, symptom tracker, more recipes, workout videos, exercise snack videos. I mean, everything to move the needle for you in a meaningful way is at drmariza.com/book. You can find me on Instagram at Dr. Mariza.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.